What's going on, y'all? So I wanted to make this video super raw, super unedited, just kind of like me talking to all of you about if you want to be an engineer, if engineer is the right thing for you, if you're kind of in another career path and you want to switch to engineering. That was kind of my backstory, how I entered engineering. Just so a little bit about myself. Pretty much all my life, I wanted to be a doctor. My parents, my family, and my grandparents, they all kind of pushed that passion, that dream onto me, and I kind of embraced it as, something I might have wanted to do. Specifically, I wanted to be a surgeon. And, growing up, you had like Grey's Anatomy, The Good Doctor, all these kind of shows that portrayed medicine and being a doctor as kind of like this romanticized fantasy job. And so I went into college, undergrad, with that exact idea of like, I want to be a doctor. That's pretty much all I want to do with my life. And I had no idea about any other kind of career path. I'm 23 now, about to turn 24. And so let me just tell you from the beginning. So I went to a really small school, but it was a K through 12. So that means I spent kindergarten until 12th grade at that same school. As much as I love that school, it was too small in the sense that, graduating class was 60 kids. There weren't a lot of opportunities. We didn't have our own field. We didn't have a football team. We didn't have tons of programs to like help you explore different career paths. All I had was just the basic STEM classes that I knew were my favorite. I love STEM. Throughout the whole way, I love STEM. I love science. I love learning about science, specifically biology, physics. Physics was pretty much my favorite class. I hated chem. Everyone hates chem, I think, unless you're a chemist, then you're crazy. But all jokes aside, I didn't really have, the opportunity to explore all these different career paths that other kids in public schools or traditional larger schools are able to do. I graduated high school and then I went to Northeastern, and I'm still at Northeastern now, as you can see the lanyard. I entered as a health sciences major and I did 5 years. And the way Northeastern works is you have, for however long your curriculum is, so mine was 5 years. I chose 5 years instead of 4 so I could have some summers off. But you also have co-ops, and I did 2 co-ops. And co-ops are essentially a 6-month, usually 6-month internship program kind of thing, where the school is partnered with a bunch of different companies in the area or around the world even, and you kind of just apply through this internal site, and then you get access to all these internships and opportunities. Actually, let's back up really quick. I forgot a huge thing. Straight out of high school, I became an EMT. I worked there for almost 2.5 years, doing 911 calls, all this crazy stuff. I saw a lot. I can do a different story time about that specific experience, but working as an EMT, seeing the front line, like being a first responder, seeing all this crazy stuff firsthand at such a young age. I was 18, straight out of high school, and that experience gave me like a lot of insight, a lot of understanding of what medicine really is, what it's like to be on the front lines, dealing with people on the worst day possible. Anything from accidents, broken bones, suicides, I've seen it all. So from there, back to the co-op thing, I got a job at Boston Children's Hospital, which is the best children's hospital in the entire world, here in Boston. And I'm a Boston native. I'm from the area, so it was a dream come true. I worked in the ER for almost 2 years. Even though the internship was 6 months, that was full-time work. And then after I did that internship, I continued on working part-time or per diem, even working on the weekends and stuff, after classes and whatnot. And so, working there, I got a lot of insight as well. Working firsthand with doctors, PAs, nurses, I started to realize I kind of hated being in this really enclosed area, like no windows. I didn't like kind of working in a building for 12 hours a day. I just didn't. It sucked. And another thing was, I didn't really use my hands as much. I mean, obviously taking vitals, helping with procedures. I love that stuff, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't engaging enough to me. And so after that, I continued my classes. I also hated the courses that I was taking, like public health. Northeastern's health science program is a lot of like public health intensive stuff, because if you're going to work in the medical field, you need to know how the system works, American healthcare system and all that. After I did that internship, I did another internship because I did two co-ops, right? So my second co-op was also at Boston Children's Hospital in the ER, same ER, but then I also worked at a lab at Boston Children's as well. So I worked in two different jobs. The lab was unpaid, unfortunately, but I kind of did part-time at both. I was able to figure that out. So that was my co-op, and I gained a lot of research experience, and I needed to do research specifically to apply to medical school. I was working in a tiny little lab, dealing with mice all day. I did a lot of genotyping, and after that, those kind of core experiences, towards my senior year, I kind of quit Boston Children's Hospital. I stopped working because I wanted to focus on the MCAT. Kind of like in this crossroads of I got to take the MCAT, so I studied for the MCAT. I took it, and didn't go well. Obviously, I got like a 500 or something like that, which is not a good score at all. It was a terrible score, but it is what it is. So I realized, like, I don't want to do that again. It sucked. It sucked. It's an 8-hour exam almost, with like a few breaks in there, and it's so intense and like disgusting. It's disgusting. I hate that exam. So from there, I was like, damn. I reached this point where it just didn't seem, one, it didn't seem possible, and two, it didn't seem like I really wanted it that bad. It felt like living someone else's dream, kind of trying to make my parents proud, because I have this huge weight on my shoulders. I'm an only child, so my parents, they gave me everything. I was raised in a super loving, super caring household. I was raised with everything I could ever ask for. I mean, my parents they raised me with bring me the grades and I'll give you what you want. So I always brought home A's, sometimes B's, but every time my report card came in, it was a 4.0 GPA. They were happy with me, so they gave me what I wanted. Thank God. Thank God for my family. Thank God for everything I was given in my life. I'm super grateful. That's kind of where this pressure came of like, I need to give back. I need to show them that, their sacrifices were worth it. My parents were both immigrants. My dad's from Morocco, my mom's from Portugal, and they came here and made a life for themselves here. My mom worked 2 jobs, my dad worked 3. Like, it was tough. So they made a life for themselves, so I have to give back to them for everything they've given me. They were always putting me in like STEM programs at MIT and, after school programs and whatnot, always trying to find opportunities for me to kind of explore what's out there. And so at this crossroads, I'm like, I don't want to go to medical school anymore because I don't want to waste, I've been in school for 5 years, college was 5 years, high school was 4 years. So that's already 9 years of just school. I don't want to go to school for another 4 years and then not getting paid at all, going into debt again because college is expensive. So you're already in debt. Going into med school is another $200,000 in debt, if I even get in, right? Because I have to take the MCAT again and all that stuff. And then after med school, you got another 4 to 8 years of residency. I wanted to be a surgeon. I wasn't into that like family medicine crap. It didn't sit right with me, right? I wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to be a surgeon. So I wanted to like work with my hands and do all these crazy stuff. The problem was that that's a long time in residency. It's 12 years almost. And then after the 8 to 12 years of residency to be a surgeon, you have to do like a fellowship. You have to do a fellowship. So after that, as a resident, you're making less than a nurse. Nurses already work their asses off and they get paid shit, which is, crazy all in itself. Nurses deserve to make a lot more money. They deal with all the crap that doctors don't have to. God bless the nurses. The average nurse in America does not make a lot of money. And being a resident for like 8 years, you're making a little bit less than that. You're making as much as a teacher. Working 12-hour days, 16-hour days in a hospital, confined to walls all day. And all this was compounding into this big thing where, do I really want to do this? Is this really what my heart is set out to do? And the answer was no. I really, to this day, obviously, I will say I have some doubts. Maybe that's what was meant for me, but all in all, I don't really think so. So I started exploring, and I had one of my best friends, his name's Waleed. One of my best friends kind of put this idea in my head of bioengineering. He went throughout undergrad as a bioengineering, biochemistry dual major, And senior year, I swear to God, this is like God put this path in front of me. Senior year, me and Waleed were, sitting in this student center at Northeastern called Curry Student Center. We have this kind of research expo for students and staff and all that, for PhD students and whatnot, to kind of display their research and teach everyone, what they've been doing the whole time here. It's called Rise. And so at this research expo, I kind of walked around with him and I was kind of exploring, and I was just so intrigued by all the research going on here. I was like, this is crazy, this is so cool. And he was like, yeah, dude, this is pretty much my major. Like, this is what I do. Building medical devices, working on all these kind of novel things, being at the front line of innovation and advancement of medicine, but in the physical world, like kind of creating the things that doctors and surgeons would use to treat or help other people. And I've always been one to, help people. I've always been intrigued with like, solving problems in the real world. And so, kind of in that moment, I was like, damn, my love for medicine and then my creativity aspect could be blended into one thing. That was bioengineering, specifically biomedical devices. So I was like, okay, it kind of put that idea in my head, and I was like, dude, how can I enter this field? Like, what's possible for me? Because in my head, I was like, I didn't really have that experience of, going into undergrad as a mechanical engineer or chemical engineer. I didn't know what those were. Like, I didn't know what a mechanical engineer did. I've always loved space, NASA, cars, planes, all that stuff. But I didn't know what a mechanical engineer was. Looking back on it now, if I could go back in time, I would undergrad in mechanical engineering and then do my master's in biomedical engineering. That would be like the thing for me, or aerospace engineering, because I love fighter jets and all that. But God didn't do that for me. So instead, I was like, what can I do to enter this field? And he was like, dude, just do your master's in bioengineering. That's what I'm doing. And so I applied to do my master's in biomedical engineering. And thank God I entered. I was able to enter the program, and that's where I am now. So I'm currently in the summer of after my first year as a master's student. And so now entering the master's degree, mind you, my entire life, all I know is medicine, emergency medicine, public health, American healthcare system. That was my upbringing. That was kind of the soul of my existence, really. So I had to hit the ground running. I had to catch up to all these people that were, doing engineering before me. I didn't know any of this crap. I didn't know how to use a 3D printer. I didn't know how to do CAD design. I didn't know how to solder. I didn't know anything about circuitry. I didn't know anything. And I was entering a master's degree where that was the foundation of it. So all in all, I hit the ground running and I worked my ass off. I was a gamer, I still am a gamer. I play a lot of video games, but that first semester of my master's degree, I didn't play any video games at all. I told my friends, like, I can't play. I have to just study, study, study. Like, I had to work my ass off, like, bad. It was pretty much like working 60-hour work weeks, except just textbook studying, learning as much as possible. I became a sponge, a literal sponge. I was pretty much SpongeBob trying to absorb all this that was being thrown at me. And it worked, it worked. Before the semester even started, I learned about 3D printing. I was doing these like tutorials and courses on SolidWorks, because I was asking my friend, and I was like, dude, what do I need to learn? What's important? And he was giving me all these tips. Thank God for Waleed, because he pretty much guided me throughout this whole process and got me up and running in this field. Pretty much doing classes, but then on my spare time learning any extra things that I can learn. And my first few classes, so the way it works is like you can either do 1-year master's degree or 2. The 2-year master's degree includes a co-op, and your co-op either comes your second or third semester. And so in the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to do a co-op. I just want to get to work. I just want to, enter the field and start working. So I wanted to do a 1-year master's degree. Bad idea, right? Because I didn't have any experience in engineering at all. So for the first year, the first semester, I overloaded. So usually, master's students take 2 or 3 classes. I didn't do that. I overloaded. So I took six classes, I think. So 6 courses. It was 18 credits. So I took 18 credits my fall semester, and it was hell, man. It was bad. Like, it was really intense. A lot of studying, a lot of crazy, like, man, I can't even. It was tough. It was really hard, but I worked my ass off. Again, I prioritized everything. I literally locked in, bro. I kind of like deactivated a lot of social media. I was not on my phone as much. If I was on my phone, I was on YouTube or Instagram looking at like engineering pages and just trying to absorb. That was my priority. Absorb, learn as much as possible. I got A's and B's in every single class, and these were really tough classes, like biomedical optics, biomedical instrumentation. And I got into soldering. I bought a soldering kit. I started getting into CAD, and I fell in love with 3D printing. So I bought a 3D printer, Bamboo Labs. Shout out to Bamboo Labs, because I love Bamboo Labs. It's so easy to use and whatnot. All in all, that's kind of where I was. So I was just getting into all this stuff. I started 3D printing a lot. I started, messing around with CAD. And this was all in my free time. After class, I would just go home, finish my homework, stay after school sometimes, and study as much as possible. But then I started approaching the end of that semester, and I had to make a decision, like, what should I do? Should I stay another year and expand it to 2 years and then get that co-op experience as well, so I can actually get hands-on real-world experience in engineering? Or do I just finish and, hope for the best and pray that I get a job? And we all know how the job market is for engineers. It's tough. So I was like, damn, I should probably do a co-op. I don't have any experience at all. Oh, backtrack. So I did those 5-6 classes, 18 credits in the fall, and I was like, I really need to get experience as well. So my friend hooked me up with a bunch of, like, pretty much a list of engineering clubs and engineering kind of positions in the university that I can work at. And I was doing my own research as well, and I came across this club called Enabling Engineering. And Enabling Engineering essentially is a group of students, like, you kind of form a team, and then that team focuses on one problem to create a device for a specific population or person that needs that device. And I joined it immediately. I was like, I need to do this. This is a great way to, like, get started. And my team specifically, we created a voice-activated call bell system for a patient with multiple sclerosis at a kind of, care facility, nursing home. And it was awesome. Throughout the whole semester, I was working with this team. So we built this call bell system. I worked on, it helped me, learn the soldering, learn the circuitry, coding with Arduino, IDE, all that stuff. And so I jumped in and I did that. At the end of the semester, we worked our asses off. We created the device, and we went to the care facility and we tested it with the patient firsthand, which was awesome. We created that call bell system. So the way it worked is that patient would kind of trigger. So the patient had an Alexa in the nursing home, and I was like, hey, let's use that Alexa instead of creating this whole voice activation module, which would be really tough. A lot more coding than necessary. And the easiest way to create a product is, don't reinvent a wheel, just kind of use what you have available to you. And so that's what we did. We used an Alexa that was in the room. The patient already had experience talking to that Alexa. So we had that patient kind of say, hey, call bell. The Alexa would recognize that voice command, which we programmed into the Alexa. Hey, call bell. It would trigger this smart switch, the smart plug that's plugged into the wall, which would then be plugged into an Arduino, and the Arduino is plugged into a relay device, and that relay device is connected to the call bell, like, button on the wall. And the way a call bell system works is you press this button. It's like a bedside call bell. You press the button, it triggers the alert system, and it sends a message to the nurses, and it's like, yo, I need help. So that's how it worked. And so we had it connected to the Alexa, and the Alexa would trigger the Arduino, which would trigger the relay device, a voltage drop, would trigger the call bell. It worked flawlessly after a bunch of iterations, obviously, and we were able to give that patient that device, and they still have it to this day, which is great. That's awesome. It was a great experience working firsthand with a patient, building medical device from scratch. Not really a medical device, but medical adjacent device. So it was a great experience. But I was like, that's not enough. I need more. I need to kind of dive into the field even more than that. While finding a co-op, because I was approaching the end of my first semester, I was like, dude, I need to get a co-op. I went to this kind of like hiring fair. It was like a hiring fair for a certain company. I'm not going to name the company, but just to keep it anonymous, it was a hiring fair. And I went to this hiring fair with my resume with my friend. And we met a bunch of representatives from this company. And so we were able to, bring our resumes and talk to these people firsthand and watch their presentation and whatnot. Typical hiring fair. And at the end of the day, I received, 2 interview requests from this company to be a product engineer, which was awesome. It kind of opened my eyes like, damn, this is possible for me. I can genuinely get a job in this field and get some experience. But the problem was that you have to pretty much fill out a form indicating your intent to co-op, intent to get an internship. And I never filled out that form because, again, previously I wanted to do just 1 year and graduate and done. So I wasn't able to acquire that position at that time for the spring semester. So instead I had to just kind of continue with the spring semester to take classes. And since I overloaded that first semester, I was able to take way less classes in the spring. And so I was taking my classes, applying to all these co-ops, and I only got a few interviews. So I was really stressed out because I was like, damn, if I don't get this, I'm screwed. Like I kind of did this for no reason. And so I was able to land this research position at this lab at Northeastern. I'm doing circuitry, I'm doing coding, I'm doing CAD design, I'm doing 3D printing, I'm doing all the building test fixtures, doing a lot of tensile strength testing, pressure testing, working with a load cell, like all these things that if you asked me a year ago, I would have no idea what any of this was. Hit the ground running, and now I'm here. So this is actually part of the lab that I work at. I'm here right now on July 4th, hence the t-shirt, working because I want to get this experience. I want to build a good name for myself and, show my PI, my principal investigator, that I'm working hard. And so what this lab does essentially is, there's tons of projects in the lab, but I was put in this specific project because it was kind of all hands, all encompassing of what I wanted to learn. The specific project that I'm working on is essentially making compression more comfortable. When people wear compression sleeves for pre-existing injury or like a cast or something, it gets really uncomfortable because it's tight on your skin and you can't really itch underneath it, stuff like that. And so what we're doing here at this lab is making silicone bubbles, kind of like this, which I made these myself, but they're silicone bubbles. And the way they work is they would be kind of in an array underneath that silicone, that compression sleeve or whatever attachment you have on your body, touching your physical skin. It goes in between that and your skin. And there will be kind of like an inflation of that silicone bubble. You see there, it's filled with air. You can't really see because the camera's trash. But I'm recording this on my iPhone. I was compelled to make this video, so I'm making it. But yeah, so we make the silicone bubbles, and I'm going to show you guys the setup in a bit, just to show you exactly what I'm doing here. But all in all, I was able to land this research position. Obviously, it's unpaid. It's kind of like volunteering almost, but it's experience, and experience is really valuable. So that's another kind of theme of this whole video is, if you're entering a field where you have no idea what you're doing, but you want to get into it, number one is, catch up to your peers, learn as much as possible, become a sponge, and get experience. That's it. That's all you have to do. Get experience. And while I was working, I was able to land the co-op, thank God, with this huge company to be a engineer. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep you guys updated on how that goes. I'll be kind of doing day in the lives, all that stuff, just to show you my journey into engineering as a biomedical engineer. But this is kind of just to say, like, it's possible. You know, it's possible to literally at end of my educational journey, I did a 180 and kind of switched my career field. That being, it was related. So I was able to bring some of that experience of, you know, medicine into this field, which is great. But if you have the work ethic and you have the drive, it's possible to switch. You know, it's possible to kind of change what you're doing and follow your heart. I will say, like, my undergrad, I was, you know, going through depression and stress and pressure, but now I'm happy. Like, I'm genuinely happy. I love what I'm learning. Everything I'm doing in class, in lab, you know, hopefully in my job, I enjoy it. Like, it's fun. It's problem solving, working with my hands, prototyping, testing, building iterations, you know, doing all this hands-on stuff that uses my brain and my hands. I love it. I love it. It's so fun. And the best part about it is it's just 8 hours a day, even less. You know, you do what you have to do. In medicine, people are at the worst point in their lives, and you're kind of trying to help them at that point, and it sucks. You know, it sucks. It's draining. I used to come home from work like exhausted and depressed and like just miserable, but now I'm happy. Like, I love what I'm doing, and I even go home and continue. Like, so yeah, that's kind of my story so far of how far I've come, where I started, etc. Kind of just a message to everyone who wants to get into engineering, who's either in high school, in college right now, looking to switch, or graduated college already. You know, everyone has a different journey. Everyone has a different kind of path to what they want to do. I will say, just start somewhere, learn as much as you can, get experience in the real world. You know, look for volunteering positions, look for internships. It's hard. I applied to 50 to 100 internships or co-ops to just get one interview, one person that wanted to give me the chance. You have to fight for what you want, for what you think you deserve. So that's what you have to do. That's what I did. So this is the test fixture. This is the load cell testing. This is a really old machine. It kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. Basically, the way it works is you turn this flip on. The pressure motor works, connected to the pressure sensor, so it gives you a pressure reading, as well as it inflates the bubbles that are underneath this load cell. That's like a 3D printed piece that's flat, so it just kind of compresses the bubble, and it gives you a load in newtons, displacement, speed, and time. So time is on the x-axis, force is on the y-axis. Basically, it works on a 30-second timer, so I flip this. It has a pulse width modulation cycle, so it pumps on and off, and it's kind of pumping right there. Pressure motor is working currently. It's reading the pressure, and it's pumping those bubbles. And, you know, that's just what I'm doing. And I think it's really fun. It's some good experience to have, kind of entering the field, working on something like this. I've been working here for almost 6 months now, and I start my co-op end of July. So after that co-op, I have one more semester, then I graduate, and then I enter the workforce. And yeah, so thank you for watching. I'm sorry that this video was really long, so if you stayed till the end, I really appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my story. If you have a similar story, or if you have any advice for me on how to, something else I should learn, something else I should do, comment down below. Tell me your story. Tell me what you think. And yeah, if y'all want to support the channel, the link in my bio. Go to my website, buy some merch. I also have an Etsy shop. It's a link tree, so you can see all of my social media, my Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you for staying until the end, and I'll see you guys later.